Okay, so what we're going to begin to do today is to use trigonometry to solve um, problems where we're looking for, in today's lesson, a missing side. Now, as we talked about previously, what's different here is that as opposed to the Pythagorean theorem, which I can use to find a missing side, in the problems you're going to see today, I'm not going to have enough information to use the Pythagorean theorem because I'm only going to have one side given to me. Okay, so the steps we're going to undertake is we're going to label each side of the triangle. Okay, and we're going to use the words we used yesterday, meaning the opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Okay, we're going to set up a proportion. As we normally do with proportions, we cross multiply. And then since we're doing sides, we're going to say for today, we're going to round to the nearest hundredth. And what we're going to do is we're going to use trigonometry to solve it. Okay. Now, before going on, I'm going to orient the board because I can already see that it's off quite a bit. Now, if you follow the steps we're going to go through, it should be a pretty straightforward exercise. Now, on my smartboard here, I don't have my right angle labeled, but I'll do that as we go along. Okay. Now, okay, we're trying to find the side marked X, obviously. Okay. And what we do is to label the sides, we start at the acute angle that we are given. Now, obviously, if we're given one acute angle, we know what the other is, but why bother? Okay? And we see that the side marked 30 is opposite. The side marked 15 is the hypotenuse. So when we see the words hypotenuse and opposite, we should be thinking sine. What always follows the trigonometric function is the angle measure. And the sine of 30 is equal to the ratio of x over 15. Okay? Now, if you think of this as sine of 30 over 1, you're going to cross multiply, okay, so that you're going to get x equals 15 times sine of 30. Now, this is the one thing you have to be careful about with the calculator. When you put this information into the calculator, you want to put the side measure in first. 15 times sine of 30 and close your parenthesis to get your answer of 7.5. Now, you could put in sine of 30 first, and in this calculator, you got to make sure you close the parentheses and then multiply by 15. Either way is fine. What you don't want to do is multiply the 30 by the 15, because then you're telling the calculator, find the sine of a 450-degree angle, and that is going to clearly be incorrect. Okay, so we got that as 7.5. We go to the next example. We start at 41 degrees. We see that this is opposite. We see that this is adjacent. So now we know we're talking about the tangent function. 41, opposite over adjacent. We cross multiply to get 13 times tan of 41. And we find that to be 11.3. Okay? And actually, for rounding to the nearest hundredth, let's see. I'm just going to do to the 10th here for now. Okay. All right. Go to the next. I start at 28. It's opposite hypotenuse. So it's sine 28 equals 14 over x. Now, here is something that is a little bit different, okay? And what's different here is that when you cross multiply, you're multiplying x times the sine of 28. So we're going to have an additional step. So x times sine of 28 equals 14. We're trying to find x, and it's being multiplied by the function sine of 28. So what do? We divide each side by the sine of 28. So when we do that, on the calculator, what we're going to do is 14 divided by sine, don't need both parentheses, 28 to get 29.82. Okay. All right. We're going to continue on. Get rid of that. So we got x is 29.82. Now we go to the next problem. Again, we want to make sure we label our sides. Okay. So we're labeling here, starting at 12, opposite, adjacent. So we have tangent of 12 equals 5 over x. The same thing, it's x times tangent of 12 equals 5. We divide 5 by the tangent of 12. And the reason we want you to do all these steps, because it's too easy to make a mistake, so that we get the 5 divided by tangent of 12. And, oh, and we get 23.52 for that one. All right. Going to the next page, we have the angle of 15 degrees. This is adjacent, hypotenuse. So we have cosine of 15 equals 19 over x. Right. Cosine of 15 times x is 19. We divide by cosine 15 so that we get x to be, I'm just doing this on my calculator. Well, I don't need to show you it every time. 19.67. Okay. Continuing on. Again, this is adjacent. Okay, we're always starting at that acute angle. Here's my right angle. So I know this is the hypotenuse. So cosine of 40 equals x over 5. This is my more straightforward multiplication, so that I get 5 times cosine of 40 to get 3.83. Okay. You'll see that these just become, somewhat of a redundant exercise after a while, but it's just something that you need to practice to get used to. All right, now I'm trying to find two different sides. What the recommendation here is, so it doesn't matter if you start with x or y. So 25 is opposite. 25, x is opposite 25. 62 is adjacent. Y is always the hypotenuse. So my recommendation, you do sine of 25 equals, not sine, I'm sorry, tangent of 25 equals x over 62. Okay. So it's 62 times tan of 25 is equal to x. And I get that to be 28.91. Now, to be more accurate, what I'd rather do is stick with the 25 and stick with the 62, because 28.91 is a rounded answer. So now I'm going to use cosine of 25 equals 62 over y. Y cosine 25 equals 62. Divide by cos of 25. So that y, so 62 divided by cos of 25, I get 68.41. Okay. It keeps the numbers as accurate as possible. Okay. Lastly, similar concept. All right, 30, this is opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. You want to use the opposite. So to find x, I'm going to use tan of 30 is equal to 8 over x. X tan of 30 equals 8. Divide each side by tan of 30. So x is 13.86. Okay. Then I'm going to go to trying to find y. So for y, I'm going to use opposite hypotenuse. So I'm going to use the sine function. So y sine of 30 is equal to 8. Divide by sine. And I get y to be, and I think it works out exactly 16. I'm sorry. Right. Yep. 8 divided by sine of 30, and that should be 4. Okay. Wait, no, can't. If I'm dividing, it's got to be 16. Yeah. Okay. What my mistake was is I multiplied in the calculator to get 4, and then you should realize y can't be less than 8 because it's the hypotenuse. Okay. All right. So the point for today's lesson is we were trying to find the missing side, and what we did is we used trigonometry to do that because we did not have enough information to use the Pythagorean theorem. Set up a proportion, cross multiply to solve.